This video will be the most important video you watch this semester. Understanding the contents of this video is crucial for your success in this course. If you do not understand and do not heed the information in this video, the chance of you failing or getting an extremely low score in this class is high. Conversely, if you understand the information in this video, the chance of you earning a good grade, such as an A or B, is also high. The place to start when starting a new course is the course syllabus. So let's start by looking at the course syllabus. To get to the course syllabus, open Canvas. From Canvas, we go to course syllabus. We look at the course syllabus and we see students enrolled in this internet course are expected to take their exams at a Navarro College Testing Center or an instructor-approved testing center. Neither remote testing nor respondents will be used for this course. You must take your exams at one of Navarro College's testing centers or an instructor-approved testing center. If I'm going to approve a testing center other than a Navarro College testing center, I am looking for the testing center to be at a college or a university. So if you cannot take an exam at one of Navarro College's testing centers, you must contact me regarding this situation. It will be on you to find a testing center where you can test. In other words, just because you want to test at one of those testing centers doesn't mean that you may. It's up to that testing center to see if they will test you and if they have the capability to test you. If they can, then you have to contact me and I need to call the testing center and see if they meet the parameters for this course. Give me at least 2 weeks in this matter. So in other words, at this point in the semester, if you cannot test at one of Navarro College testing centers, you should be contacting me by email ASAP and saying this is where I would like to test. We do have, or I should say Navarro College does have testing centers in Mexia, Corsicana, Waxahachie, and Midlothian. You may test at any one of these testing centers. I will make an announcement in Canvas shortly after the semester starts saying please email me with your preferred testing location. And then merely let me know if you wish to test at Mexia or if you're going to test at Corsicana or Waxahachie or Midlothian. And of course, if you do not want to test at one of those locations, then let me know what your alternate location is. If you are a high school student and you are taking this course as a dual credit student, then please email me as soon as possible with that information. We look at the course syllabus and we see that lectures are to be completed independently by students according to the time frame found in the Canvas calendar. And labs are to be completed independently by students according to the time frame found in the Canvas calendar. So we'll go over here and we see the calendar. I'm going to go ahead and open this calendar in a new tab. Make sure that when you're looking at the Canvas calendar, you are looking at the correct course. So I come over here and I see CHEM 1411 NT1 and I will select that course. And I see that classes start on the 4th of June and that students should be looking at Chapter 1 Essential Ideas. Then we see starting roughly on Thursday that students should be looking at Chapter 2 Atoms, Molecules, and Ions. And then on the 9th, students should be looking at Chapter 3 Electronic Structure and Periodic Properties of the Elements. We also see that the testing window for Exam 1 starts on the 11th and ends on the 12th. And Exam 1 must be completed by 5 p.m. on the 12th. Now, 5 p.m. is because that's when our testing centers close. Now, oftentimes the testing centers will have extended hours, and if the testing center has extended hours and you want to avail yourself of such, then the exam will be due when that testing center closes. But exams must be completed by close of business on the 12th. All right, so you have a 2-day testing window. You must take your exam in one sitting. What I'm saying by this is you can't go in there, start the exam on Wednesday the 11th, and then halfway finish it, turn it in, and then come back on Thursday the 12th and finish it. You must finish your exam in one sitting. All right, notice that this is a fast pace for this course. In other words, we are looking at a summer course. The summer course only has 6 weeks to it. So in this case, that means that the first day you need to be studying the material. So we look at this and we see, well, we have exam 1 on the 12th, and then we see that we have exam 2 on the 23rd and 24th. Exam 3, we have the pretest for it on the 1st of July, and then we see our testing window for the exam 3 starts on July 3rd. Let's go ahead and go to the next month. And then we see that the testing window for exam 3 continues to the 7th. So the college is closed on the 4th. College, of course, is closed on the 5th and 6th. So there's a 2-day testing window for the third exam. Notice the final exam has a 2-day testing window, and that follows immediately after exam 3. So we're going to look at this and we're going to say, wow, this is pretty fast moving course. You're going to have an exam, maybe a week's break, then another exam, then maybe a week's break, and then exam 3 and the final exam. So you have to stay up on a material. One of the things that gets people in trouble with these summer courses is they have too many commitments. Perhaps they take some other courses and they think, oh, well, I can handle multiple courses, and then perhaps they're working a part-time job as well. You're simply not going to have time to cover the material and do well in this course if you overcommit yourself. So look carefully at your commitments as you're starting this course. The most important thing for you to be successful point-wise or score-wise in this course is performance on exams. The majority of points that will be used to determine your final grade are exam scores. So the exams are where you're going to earn or lose most of your points for this course. So it's important to know how to do well on exams. You need to think like the professor on this. I'm going to tell you my thought process on this. So let's continue looking at our course syllabus. We see there are proctored testing dates, exam 1, exam 2, exam 3, and the final exam, and these match what are in the Canvas calendar. However, please note that the testing windows and dates may change. The Canvas calendar provides the most accurate list of proctored testing windows and dates. What I'm saying by this is we have dates in the course syllabus, but if something happens, maybe there's some foul weather and the testing centers can't operate, but something prevents the testing centers from being able to administer the exams as scheduled, and we have to push the dates back for these exams, I will not change the dates in the course syllabus for the exams. I will change the dates in Canvas, and I will use Canvas as a communication tool, and I will send out announcements. So make sure that you have your Canvas settings so that if I send out a Canvas announcement, you get it by email. That will be done through the notifications section in the course, and it's up to you to set those notifications. All right, so we look at contact information. The best way to get a hold of me is by my Navarro College email address, which is right here. I do have an office in Drain Hall. It is room 117. It's summertime, so you're probably not going to find me in Drain Hall, room 117 over this summer. I do have an office phone. It's listed right here. But again, I might not be going in office except maybe one day a week. So if you want to get a hold of me, email is the best way to do so. I also have a website, and we'll look at this here in a little bit, and here's a URL link to it within. All right, I have not set my internet office hours yet. I will do that here this first week, and I'll make an announcement in Canvas as to when I will be holding online office hours. What I'll do is I will open up Zoom for an hour, and students, you can just drop in during that hour and ask me questions as need be on the material. All right, so I'm not going to cover things that are not super important for your understanding of the course, but you should understand that you should already have taken college algebra for this course. I will say herein, this is a chemistry course. This is not a math course. So I will show you how to set up problems in the course, but I will often not work through the details of the algebra. You'll see that this course moves very quickly, and you should already have your algebra skills burnished before taking this course. So I'm not going to belabor the actual algebra work in this course. All right, so let's go ahead and go to required and optional materials. It is important to have the textbook for this course. Now, I understand that a lot of students come from high schools where textbooks were not used, and it was handouts from the professor or the teacher. But what I'm going to say is this course truly is built around the textbook. You might say, well, isn't it built around Canvas? No, Canvas is built around delivery of the material, but the material comes from the textbook. So let's look at your textbook. It says right here, textbook and solutions manual are available for free at openstacks.org. What we want is Chemistry Atoms First, second edition. So open up a separate tab and go to https://openstacks.org. This is the URL we see right here. We'll go ahead and accept all tabs. We're going to go to subjects. We're going to go to science. We're going to go to chemistry. And we see there's chemistry second edition and chemistry atoms first second edition. This is your textbook. This is the one you're going to use. And so we're going to click on this. And we see that you can download a PDF or you can view online. Now, I understand that herein they recommend view online, but I'm going to recommend that you download a PDF. Why download the PDF? Simple. This is Texas. We have what's called weather. You could have heavy rainstorms, you could have lightning storms, and those all have a strong chance of precipitating power outages or internet outages. So what I'm saying is, if you download a PDF, then you have the textbook and it's on your device. And if you lose your internet connection, you can still study. You can still go over the material. You may also have data limitations. So maybe you're using a cell phone and your cell phone has a certain data plan. Okay, each time you view that book through HTML or through the internet, you're using up data. But if you download the textbook, you've only used the data once, and then when you want to view the textbook in, you're not using data. I strongly recommend you go to Student Resources. And we see that there is a student solution guide. And we can go over here and we can click download. And we can go to our resource. What I'm saying here is that they're giving you the textbook for free. They're giving you the solutions manual for free. And the solutions manual is worth its weight in gold. Students will often sit there and say, I don't know how to work a problem. And then I'll ask, well, did you look at the student solutions manual? And then I get the deer in the headlights look, like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm telling you herein, you can get the student solutions manual for free. You can get the textbook for free. Get both of them. It's required for this course. All right, so we have our student solution manual and we have our textbook. You need a lecture and solutions subscription. And this is your subscription to Science Problem Solve for accessing video lectures and solve problems. I don't know why, but a lot of students think, oh, I'll go to YouTube and I'll look at some videos that people have put on YouTube to explain how to understand the material. And then they get going in a class and they're struggling. And they take the first exam and they fail. And they say, oh, but I'm watching the videos on YouTube. But I don't put my videos on YouTube for the most part. I may put this video on YouTube, but I don't put my lecture videos on YouTube. You're not going to find my lecture videos on YouTube because I don't put them there. And so students watch some other professor presenting material. And then they go and take the exam, and they discover that the material they studied is nothing like what's on the exam. But yet, I've given the students my lecture videos for free. Why not watch the lecture videos that your professor has provided and not someone else? So what I'm saying is, going to scienceproblemsolve.com is where you're going to find the lectures I've made. You're going to see my face on the videos, and I'm covering material that I think is important for this class, and it is presented in a comprehensive fashion. Let's go to our website. Let's go to, and there's a URL down here, scienceproblemsolve.com. And we will go to right here, scienceproblemsolve.com. So this is my website. I really don't make any profit off of this website. We have to accept our cookies. And we see that this is scienceproblemsolve.com. This is General Chemistry 1. So we'll go here to General Chemistry 1. We have orientation video, and then we have this video on Chapter 1, Essential Ideas. It's not just one video. Don't watch just one video and think, oh, that's all there is on Chapter 1. There are multiple videos on Chapter 1. So this is your lecture video, Chapter 1, Chemistry, Second Edition, Atoms First. And notice there's this little arrow button over here. You got to click the little arrow button. Students, I've had a lot of students that do not click the arrow button, and they're like, well, I don't know how we get these other videos. I've never seen them before in my life. There's a little arrow button. We're going to click the arrow button, and then we have a separate video on rounding. See, that's rounding 1. Another video, rounding 2. I've given you 2 videos on how to round. Sig figs 1. Sig figs 2, sig figs 4, sig figs 5, density of an object, another density of the object, density of a metal, another density of a metal, conversions, how we do conversions, conversions 1 and 2, conversions 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm saying is, you have an entire battery of videos that I'm giving you for Chapter 1 for General Chemistry. Work through all of these videos. For this course, you're supposed to have 3 hours of lecture per week. And what I'm saying is you watch that video lecture, that is a lecture over Chapter 1, that is about an hour. And then you have other videos where I show how to work the problems, that's roughly another hour. So what I'm saying is I've given you a lot of content. All the content is in one place. Why go to YouTube and look at someone else and have to fish through their content? Watch the lecture videos as I have provided. Now, the thing on this is going to take time. And again, if you've overcommitted yourself, you're going to discover you don't have time. So watching the lecture videos and watching the solution videos does not count as having done your homework. You do have to do homework for this course to be successful. Now, I'm not going to collect the homework, but you have to do homework in this course to be successful. Let's see what we mean. Let's keep looking at the syllabus video. So we need our subscription. Science Problem Solve does have a paywall. If you want free access to it, then follow the instructions herein. It says a free subscription will be provided to students enrolled in this course. To obtain a free subscription, students must log into their Navarro College provided email. Students, you cannot get a free subscription to this course by using a Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, or anything like that. You have to use your Navarro College provided email. Now, I've had some students be like, but I can't get into that. Well, fix it. Contact Campus IT and get into your Navarro College provided email. All right, so you have to use your Navarro College provided email, and you have to ask for your free subscription within the first week of school. So school starts on, as we saw, June 4th. So you had better ask for your free subscription by June 11th. After that, if you haven't asked for your free subscription, you'll just have to pay for a subscription. Now, the fee for this is actually quite nominal, but if you want your free subscription, here's what you do. You go back to, all right, we're going to go home. Once we go home, we're going to scroll on down to the very bottom of this website. And it says, enter your email here. And this is where you will enter your email. And the email that you enter has to be your Navarro College provided email. So enter your Navarro College provided email and hit subscribe now. Within a few days, the web administrator is going to send you a code, and you'll use that code to get your free subscription. Now, use caution. This code often goes to a spam or a junk folder or something like that, and students are like, oh, I never got the code. Well, yes, you did. I'm going to say in the years I've been doing this, I have never had a student say, oh, I didn't get the code, when in fact that code was sent and that student actually did have that code. So I'm going to turn around and say, if you're thinking you didn't get the code, you got the code, as long as you used your Navarro College provided email. Now, I have students that haven't used their Navarro College provided email, and of course they didn't get the code because you got to use your Navarro College provided email. All right, we're going to go back to our course syllabus. So you do need your lecture solutions, lecture and solutions subscription. That is your videos on this course. This is not a face-to-face course, so you do not need your duplicator notebook or splash group goggles. You do need a chemistry lab simulator because you are for the internet student. To get to the chemistry lab simulator, you'll go to Beyond Labs, you'll hit purchase over here, and you're going to need the chemistry 20 weeks, and you'll hit purchase. I will let you know the college is not paying for your subscription to Beyond Labs. You have to pay for this out of pocket. Now, you get a free lecture and solutions subscription. Your textbook is free. Your solutions manual for the textbook is free. On this case, $29.95, that's what you have to pay for the lab simulator for this course. Again, there is no college code. The college is not providing. You'll have to provide the funding for this out of your pocket. All right. So we will continue on with our syllabus. Information and information technology. You must have access to a personal computer, and you must have administrative authority on the personal computer. You must be able to load software on a computer. You must have internet access with bandwidth sufficient to conduct video teleconferencing. Your computer must have a camera and a microphone, and you must know how to use your camera and microphone, and you must have access to Microsoft Excel. Now, you do not need to buy Microsoft Excel. Since you're a Navarro College student, you have access to Microsoft Excel. Here's how we get to Microsoft Excel. You'll log in to your Office 365 account, and you'll get to a page that looks similar to this. You may not see Excel listed here. We see Outlook, and we could click on Outlook, but that's just going to take us to Outlook. We're going to go over here, and we're going to click on Apps. And when we click on Apps, we may see Excel here, but perhaps we don't see Excel here. Then we're going to click on All Apps. And then once we go through All Apps, this shows us all apps that are available to you as a Navarro College provided student, or as a Navarro College student. And so you'll click on Excel, and it will open an HTML version of Excel. And so you have access to Excel for free. You need Excel for your lab reports. This course is paperless except for the exams, and our lab reports will be done through Excel. So this is how you get Excel. You do not need to buy Excel. It is provided to you for free as a student. All right, so we'll go back to our course syllabus. You do need a scientific calculator. I recommend a TI 83, 84, 89, or Inspire. These calculators all have solve functions, and I have no problem with you using the solve function. In fact, using the solve function will help greatly in this course. When I have office hours, students will often call and say, hey, I don't know how to work this problem. I will use a document camera as need be, and I will put my calculator underneath the document camera and say, okay, this is how we work this on our calculator. And I expect students to have an advanced calculator that can follow along and work the problem. So I'm good with the TI 83, 84, 89, or Inspire. Certainly a Casio or an HP would work, but I don't know how to use those with the same proficiency as I do the TI. So have an advanced calculator that can do the things that you need it to do this semester. Again, it's not a math class, so we're going to lean on the capabilities of an advanced calculator. All right, you should have a headset with a microphone. It is optional. Earbuds with the little microphone on the wire are fine, something to improve audio quality if we meet by Zoom. Okay, so we'll go over our assignments and activities. We've already covered the exams. There will be 3 interterm exams and a comprehensive final. Each one of these is worth 100 points, so there are 400 points for the exams. You get to drop the lowest of these 4 exam scores, and you get to drop it without qualification, meaning if you just want to drop that score, it gets dropped automatically. The lowest of your 4 exam scores is dropped. Now, it's dropped for life's purposes or life's events. So in other words, maybe you're planning on taking an exam, then you're going to take it on the second day of your 2-day testing window, and you go to get in your car and your car has flat. You don't make it to the testing center on time, that's a 0, but it's nothing to worry about because you get to drop your lowest exam score. But what if you say, well, I'm on vacation and you've got that exam around July 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th, and I don't want to deal with that, so can't I take the exam super early or super late? No. We have the testing windows, and you may not take an exam outside the testing window. So in other words, if something happens and the testing window is over, you don't get to take the exam after the testing window has closed. You must take the exam within the testing window. Now, if you have a school-sponsored event and you get the information from the school-sponsored event, someone from the school contacts me in that regards, well, then we'll talk about what accommodation you'll have in that regards. But once the testing window is closed, it's closed. I'm going to post the key for the exam the very next day. So you can't take the exam after I've posted the key. The key is posted. So you get to drop the lowest exam score, and the purpose of this is to account for life's events. All right, now what happens if something occurs and you must miss 2 exams? Well, we're getting that situation that pay attention to the information in the course syllabus because it spells out what happens if you miss 2 exams. And let's hope it doesn't come to that. Put your effort forward to make all of the exams. All right. So there's other information. We have labs, and the labs will be done through the lab simulator, and you'll submit those labs, and those labs are also worth a certain amount of points. We can go over here to our assignments, and we can see what our assignments are worth. Now notice we have the student learning outcome lab reports, and that's worth 23% of our course. And then we have some general lab reports, and those are 23% of the course. And then we have 4% for some quizzes, but exams are half of your grades. So what I'm saying is those 4 exams are going to count for half of your grades. So doing well on these exams is important. All right, so we're going to go back to our course syllabus. Our grading criteria is 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, etc. I do round in this course, so an 89.4 would be rounded to an 89, and an 89.5 would be rounded to a 90. So if you get an 89.5 or higher, then you are guaranteed an A in this course. I may lower the cutoff scores. In other words, right now I'm saying an 89.5 or higher is guaranteed to be an A. At the end of the semester, I may do some adjustments that could go down to an 88%, 87%, etc. But an 89.5 is guaranteed an A, a 79.5 is guaranteed a B, etc. All right, so we scroll on down and we see that there is some preparation that I expect for the online students. You should be technologically proficient if you're taking this internet course, and you should also be good at initiative of working through the material on your own promptly and not getting behind. Getting behind is how you get in trouble in this course. All right, so let's go back to our homepage here. I mentioned earlier that performance on the exams was all important to success in this course. And so the question is, well, how do I do well on exams? I mean, it's big area to cover, and we're just saying, oh, okay, well, chapter 1 material, chapter 2, chapter 3. All right, so let's go back and look really quickly at the calendar. And we see that we have the testing window for exam 1, but let's look over here. We see that exam 1 covers chapters 1 through 3. In other words, it covers chapters 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. So to help target your studying effort, I'm saying that, well, you need to study the material in your textbook that is in chapters 1, 2, and 3. For students that have not had a lot of experience working with textbooks, this can be a new experience. So in other words, if your high school has not pushed you to use textbooks and this is your first semester in college, what I'm saying is you need to say that that textbook now becomes central to your study for this course. So what you should do in studying chapter 1, you should first watch that lecture video that I provided. And then second, you should look at all the solutions videos that I provided for chapter 1. Then you should go over and you should look and say, well, exam preparation. We're at the home page and we're looking at the first module in our home page, and it's called exam preparation. And it says recommended homework problems, Chemistry 2E Atoms First. So you've already downloaded this textbook. And we click on this and we see that it is a spreadsheet and it contains examples and exercises. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this. Now you can download this to make it a little more clear, but we see recommended homework problems or recommended homework to accompany Chemistry 2E Atoms First from OpenStax. Chapter 1, Essential Ideas. And then we also have Chapter 2, Atoms, Molecules, and Ions. And yes, there's also a Chapter 3. But we're looking into this, and what I'm telling you is, for Chapter 1, I would like you to know how to work examples 1.1, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 1.11, 1.12. And then I would like you to work exercises 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 12, etc. Now, how do we get with that? Well, let's go ahead and have a look. So we're going to go over here. I've already downloaded a copy of the textbook, and so now I can open up this, and since I'm using Windows 11, this opens up in Edge, and I'm not actually accessing the textbook through HTML. All right, so looking at your textbook, if we go to the first page, we see that it looks like a regular textbook. We have the first page, the title page, and we scroll through, and then we have information on authors. It has an ISBN, and this is actually a very good textbook put together by Rice University through some support from these philanthropic organizations. All right, so one thing we do have is we have good indexing, so we can go over here to Chapter 1, Essential Ideas. Now I'm going to go back to the recommended homework problems. And I said I would like you to be able to work and understand examples 1.1, 1.3, 1.4. So let's go back to our textbook. We're in Chapter 1. Let's scroll on down until we find example 1.1. All right, so here we are, and we're looking at example 1.1, calculation of density. So your author goes through, he gives you the question, and then he works through it and gives you the solution. So this is example 1.1. What I'm saying is, I would like you to know how to do this. In other words, yes, you can read it, yes, you can see the solution, but could you work a solution or work this through without looking at the solution? And then we see, well, I assigned 1.1 and I assigned 1.3. Here's example 1.3. Round the following to the indicated number of significant figures. He gives you the problems and he gives you solutions. And what I'm saying is, could you work these without the solution? So this is example 1.1 and example 1.3. And notice these are the examples to work. I would also like you to work the exercises for that chapter. So let's go back to chapter 1 and see where we find our exercises. So we're going to scroll on down. And we get to exercises. So we're at the end of the chapter, and the author has more exercises for you to work through. And I'm saying you should work exercises 2, 3, 8, 9. So I come over here. Here's exercise 2. Identify each of the following statements as being most similar to a hypothesis, law, or theory. Explain your reasoning. So exercise 2, exercise 3, etc. Now notice we don't have the solutions for these right here. So where would you go if you're sitting there going, well, how do I know if I got the problem right or not? Or I don't know how to work that problem because maybe I didn't have a video that covers that problem. You have the Student Solutions Manual that you downloaded for free from OpenStax. At this point, go and look at that Student Solutions Manual. Try the exercise first. Try and work it through without looking at the answer. But if you're trying it and you think you got the right answer, then compare it to what's in the Solutions Manual. If you're stuck and you're like, I'm giving it full brain power, but it's not working, then go to the Student Solutions Manual. Okay, so that's how you work through a chapter. Watch the lecture video, watch the solutions video, work the exercise or work the examples, and then work the exercises. Do chapter 1. You only have 2 days for chapter 1. Then do chapter 2. You only have a few days for chapter 2. Then do chapter 3. That first exam is coming around the corner fast. And you got to think like the instructor, and I'm the instructor. I'm going to make an exam, and I'm telling students, I'm giving you this straightforward. Look at the textbook and work those problems. Notice I'm not telling you to read the textbook. I would not necessarily try and read the textbook because that might take a lot of time, and you probably don't have time for that. I would try working those problems, and if and only if you can't work the problems, then I would go back to that section of that chapter and read up on it. But I wouldn't try and read the textbook through completely. You don't have time. I would try the recommended homework problems. I would look at the examples, make sure I understood those. Then I'd work the exercises. I'd lean on that Student Solutions Manual. And then I'd say, well, okay, I've done all that. Am I prepped? Okay, here's how I'm going to make the exam. Your exams 1, 2, and 3, will be 25 questions. What I will do is I will look at the assigned the assigned examples and the assigned exercises for chapters 1, 2, and 3. I will pick 25 questions, or I should say 20 questions. I will pick 20 questions at least from those recommended homework problems, and I will put those on the exam. I'm not collecting homework. There is no MyLab or something like that from some publisher that you have to go to. There is no publisher's website that you're going to find that has tutorials. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say you have your recommended homework problems, and of the questions of the homework that I've assigned for chapters 1, 2, and 3, I will pull at least 20 questions from those recommended homework problems and put them on the exam. So I am telling you right now where I am getting the problems for the recommended homework problems. Will I know if you've been doing your homework? Well, if I look at your exam and you score a 15 or a 16 on that first exam, then no, you weren't doing the homework problems. But if you score a 70 or 80 or a 90, then yes, you were doing the homework problems. It's as simple as that. So I'm telling you where I'm getting the problems for your exams, and I'm telling you those exams are half of your grade. So if you study the recommended homework problems, you should feel a sense of deja vu when you sit down and take the exam. You could be like, I've seen these before. Now I'm going to let you know. The problems as you see them on the exam will not be the same chemical or the same numbers as on the homework. In other words, what I'm saying is I reserve the right to change the chemical or to change the numbers. The problems that you see on the exam are going to come from the recommended homework problems, but I reserve the right to change the chemicals or to change the numbers. Now, you're sitting there saying, I may have panic. I don't know what level of difficulty to expect when I go in and take this first exam. All right, let's have a look. We're going to go back to our home page. We're going to scroll on down, and we see that we have an Exam 1 pretest. And this will be open for a few days, and this is not worth a whole lot. If we looked at the assignments, we'd realize with pretest is only worth 12.5 points. We see that right down here, but it's even moderated, so it's worth even less than that. Don't stress over the pretest. Don't spend 10 hours doing the pretest. Just try the pretest. Even if you bomb it, it's only worth 12.5 points, but again, it's not even worth that. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's open up our assignments in a new page. I want to show you how little points these pretests really are worth. All right, so we see it's 12.5 points, but it's only 4% of your total grade. So what I'm saying is it's 12.5 points, but then it's actually multiplied by 0.04. So the pretest is worth virtually no points. All right, so we go back to this and we look at previous exams. Now notice, this is CHEM 1411, Exam 1, Spring of 25. So this is the exam that students used in the spring semester. Now notice, this is provided for reference only. Do not use this as a study guide. Do not sit there and look at this exam, work through all the problems and say, oh, I'm prepped for the exam. Ha, I've got it all under control. No, I'm not going to be stupid enough to reuse this exam. You're going to get a fresh exam. I put this exam here just to give you an idea of what it is that you're going to see on your exam. So we come over here to our first exam. And we see that this is the key for CHEM 1411 NT exam number 1 of spring of 25. So I'm giving you the key. Now, don't ask me questions about this key. I'm not promising you that this key is correct. This key was between the students of the spring semester and I. If there was an error, we've already worked through it. But this is the key that I posted. I will let you know shortly after you take your exam, whether it's exam 1 or 2. Let me rephrase that. I will let you know shortly after the testing window for each exam. I will post the key, so you will be able to look at the key to the exam. I will also try to scan your exam and post your scanned exam in your gradebook. So you're going to be able to look at the key in one hand and look at your exam in the other. They're going to be given to you electronically, and you can see what it is that you did on the exam and how you either earned points or lost points. But again, the previous semester's key is provided to help you understand the difficulty level of this exam. So we're looking at the key from last semester. You are given a crib sheet. You do not get to bring in your own notes and all that stuff on the exam, but I will give you a crib sheet that will have your formulas and your constants that you need. Where could I get that crib sheet? Well, this is a crib sheet from last semester. I'm not going to make a new one. I might add to it, but essentially this is a crib sheet. You will also be given a periodic table on your exam. So here's the periodic table the students have. And then we see question number 1, express this number in scientific notation with the correct number of significant figures. Notice that I've already given you a video on significant figures and rounding and all that stuff. And that was already part of the recommended homework problems. So if you've watched the videos, if you've done the homework problems, this is going to be straightforward. If you haven't watched the videos, if you haven't done the recommend homework problems, you're not going to get this problem. How many sig figs are in this number? What is product of this? And so we see that the exam is very much fill in the blank. Your exams are going to be paper exams. You will go to the testing center. You will tell them, hey, my name is Bobby Bonatz, and I'm here to take the exam. They'll say, okay, give me your student ID. Give them the student ID. Then they're going to hand you a paper exam. You'll go into the testing room with your paper exam, your calculator, and a pencil or two. You'll write directly on that exam, and then you're going to hand that exam to the person at the testing center. They will scan that exam, and they will send it to me electronically. I will then score that exam, scan it, and put it inside your gradebook. Okay, so we get the idea of how to prep for this. Now again, at least 20 of 25 questions will come from the recommended homework problems. I could say up to 5 questions, question 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, etc., are going to come from somewhere else. Like, going to ask yourself, again, think like the professor, where would we get these other 5 questions? Well, you have to do labs. And labs often involve calculations or concepts. And if you understand the labs, then when you go to take the exam, it should be straightforward. Because if I asked you a question on a lab as part of the lab report, then when you take the exam, you should be able to answer that question if you answered it correctly when you did the lab, assuming that you put the effort into the lab. So the other questions that you may see that don't come from the recommended homework problems may well come from the labs. I may also pull a question or two here or there that are strictly from the lecture videos. So in other words, if you watch the lecture videos, maybe there's some key information in lecture videos that you should have been paying attention to, because I may have mentioned it a dozen times, that you'll say, okay, this makes sense. He's mentioned it a dozen times. It's stuck in my memory and I can't forget it. I remember it at night, and when I wake up, I wish it would go away, but now it's handy to have it coming back to my mind as I'm taking the exam. So work the recommended homework problems, do your labs diligently and understand how to do the labs, watch the lecture videos, and you should do extremely well on the exams. If you don't do those, you're not going to do well on exams. The other majority of the points for the class are going to come from the labs. And I just mentioned that the labs are preparation for the exams. So make sure that you put your effort into understanding the labs. Now let's go back and look at the Canvas calendar for a minute. And we see that our first lab is due on the 8th. Now, this first lab is open from the 4th to the 8th. And then we see that we have another lab due on the 15th. And that lab is open from the 8th to the 15th. So your labs are essentially open for an entire week. Please don't go through this process of, oh, well, I didn't have time to do the lab. Oh, you know, I didn't understand that the lab was due at 11 o'clock or 11:59. I was late submitting it. You've had an entire week to do these. So don't procrastinate on labs until the 11th hour. Work the labs early, get them knocked out. And then if you have questions on them, because maybe you can't finish it because you have questions, we have time to go back and forth. If need be, we can always set up a Zoom meeting, but I'm going to let you know. So this first lab is due at 11 p.m. on Sunday night. I'm not going to answer emails Sunday evening that you're asking on this. If you ask me questions, on Friday or Thursdays or Wednesday, I'll answer questions in regards to that lab. But if you're stuck on a lab, I'm not going to be sitting here anxiously waiting for your email Sunday evening. So make sure you work your labs early. All right, so we'll go back to our homepage. And we see you have your module, exam preparation. This is an important module. I've covered most of the stuff on this. You do have an orientation quiz, and this orientation quiz is due on the 6th. Make sure you pay attention to due dates in Canvas. You'll have an exam 1 pretest. This will be due June 9th. It's actually open for a few days. So it's not open just one day, multiple days. You have examples on the previous exams of how hard it will be. We have our Zoom meeting information, so that will get you the meeting information to get a hold of me. I did provide a quick video on how to use a solve function on a TI-89 and an 84. We also have a copy of the syllabus available for download. Apparently, not all operating systems are able to download or view the syllabus. So here is a PDF that you can download and view. And then we have Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Chapter 6. So I have modules in the homepage for various chapters that have assignments. And assignments are mostly labs, but occasionally there are some other videos that might be helpful. For example, this video on how to complete virtual labs in CHEM Lab, Canvas, Excel. It might be worthwhile watching this video when it's time to actually do your first lab. We also have a quantum number mnemonic that matches Chapter 3, and it might be worthwhile looking at that mnemonic. So we look at this and say, okay, the rest are labs, but there's kernels of information that are available to you. that can be helpful. All right, so again, study for the exams, stay on top of this course, do not overcommit yourself this semester, do not get behind. If there's something you need from me, please email me. I will try and get back to you promptly. But if this is begging for savior on Sunday night because you didn't do your lab until the 11th hour and you don't know, that I will not get back with you on promptly on. But I will try and get back to most emails within a 24-hour period. I do wish you the best of luck. This course, it's a crucial course for many disciplines. Many people want to go into health sciences, get a baccalaureate in biology. There are several students that have gotten their baccalaureates in chemistry that are former students. But the material in this course is built upon in other courses. This course is a prerequisite for many disciplines, many degrees, etc. With that said, the key to being successful is to learn the material. And I try to be straightforward, and this is the material that you have to know. So make sure you're watching those lecture videos and working those recommended homework problems. And if you need help, contact me by email. And if need be, again, we can set up something in Zoom to help close that knowledge gap and make you successful. I wish you the best of luck in this course, and I wish you the best of luck in your academic endeavors.